Around midnight, I heard something shuffling outside the tent, knocking around the cooler, the sound of glass bottles clinking together. My first thought was it could be the campers not far from us, just messing around and maybe drunk. The moonlight allowed me to see what was going on to some extent. A shadow passed over the tent as it moved toward us, shuffling around near the entrance. The shadow came on again. This time, it was right at the door. I could hear huffing and breathing, almost like a horse. It sounded quite large, and it dawned on me that it could be a bear. It began pushing into our tent. I was tempted to kick it from the inside, but hesitated and thought better of it. Maybe it would go away. There's no food in here, just myself and Aubrey. It reached out a forepaw and slid its claws down, slicing through the nylon like paper. And at that point, I knew we were in trouble.
What's up, guys? Iceman here.
So this story is called Garbage Bear, and it's already seeming to be quite alluring, isn't it? This is an incident where a bear actually breaks into a tent while two people are camping in it, and the worst thing imaginable occurs. But before I get into it, I'd like to thank you guys for all your support on this channel, as it has been growing exponentially. So if you want to help me out, you could like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit the bell so you're notified next time I post a video. And if you want to support me further, you can become a patron or a channel member. Links in the description below. And blessings to those who support the Iceman. So before I smother you with these bearing details, let's get into the story. Kevin and Aubrey were just friends, but it's likely Kevin saw in her, possibly, more than just that. He remembers her as a beautiful young woman, about 5'7", thin, large and symmetrical eyes, full lips, clear skin, and a high nose bridge, a living embodiment of the golden ratio. She had a calming persona about her. She played the flute in her high school band and enjoyed hiking and staying fit and active. She took a year off after high school to work at a camp lodge in Yellowstone. There, she waited tables and cleaned cabins. She planned to attend college the following year to pursue her interest in environmental science. At 19, she had her whole life ahead of her. Kevin recalls the camping trip with cold dread, the horror of the final night, thinly veiled behind sad eyes. The beautiful Yellowstone vistas mean little to him now, even after returning many times in the years after the incident. Happy Park visitors still pitch tents in the same campground, most lulled into a sense of safety by their cans of bear spray and ignorance. As the National Park Service likes to remind visitors, more people have been killed or injured by the hot springs than by bears. Every year, 3 to 4 million people visit the park, and on average, 1 bear attack per year occurs, with human deaths even less likely. According to a recent Associated Press article, tourists are even more likely to be injured by a bison than a bear. The numbers seem to add up, because there are 5,000 to 6,000 bison in Yellowstone and around 150 brown bears. It seems that most human-bison encounters happen due to stupidity on the human's part. A cursory internet search brings up dozens of videos of foolhardy tourists acting brainlessly in front of wildlife. Maybe they just want to pet it. Maybe they're trying to get a selfie. Whatever it is, they often get what they deserve. But what about the people who do everything right? What about the people who stay on the designated trails, who keep a clean camp, who read all the pamphlets and posters and follow all the best practices? Sometimes the worst happens to them, too. The what-ifs of the night lay heavy on Kevin's mind. Of course, I wonder if I could have done something differently. We were both experienced campers, and Aubrey had been working in Yellowstone all summer. Kevin shrugged. Realistically, I think we did the right things. It was just bad luck that Ruthie had to be around. Ruthie, the bear, was a repeat visitor at the campground. She was beginning to draw some unwanted attention on herself and was a candidate for being rehomed, but it hadn't happened yet. After the incident, she was searched out and neutralized. At only 290 pounds, her thin body and rotting teeth were telltale signs of the malnourishment that can occur when bears become habitualized to human food sources. When I first heard her outside the tent, I thought it was the neighbors. It was so unexpected, but I should have been more prepared. Kevin still blames himself and probably always will. I shook Aubrey awake and told her to stay still. There's a bear snooping in on us. I put my hand over her mouth to muffle her shriek as she came to, and we both lay there silent, trying to control our breathing. It stepped in, its heavy weight setting on my legs. I thought it would sniff us and leave. We made sure to not have any food in the tent with us. It saw me move as I pulled my sleeping bag over my face. It seemed to back off, only for a moment, but then came on and stepped right onto my hips. I winced and tried to roll out from under it, but couldn't. She was too heavy. She was so heavy and had me pinned down by my groin. Then it turned its gaze to Aubrey. I could smell its fishy breath. The bear seemed to be damp and musty. A urine-like odor filled our tent, and it lurched at Aubrey. I didn't realize it at the time, but she was only half covered by her sleeping bag. Maybe she was unable to get herself low enough, or maybe the bear was standing on the bottom end of her bag, blocking her from pulling it over her face. I felt the bear step off of me finally, and it must have grabbed her. She screamed, but then quietness again. It didn't seem to stop the bear. It violently tussled with her. I could hear some sort of crunching, gurgling sound. She began moaning loudly. I peered through my bag, and I saw that the bear had jaws clamped around Aubrey's head. With front paws on her chest, the bear pulled up violently, as if it were trying to rip her head off. The jaws slipped from her face, and the giant furry head shot back from the recoil, only to attack her once again. Aubrey tried to bring the bag over her face, but to no avail. The bear had hold of it once again, yanking and yanking on it. The strength of the animal was unimaginable, the way it was able to pull her so effortlessly and nearly stretch her neck out. High-pitched wailing came from Aubrey, and it dug its teeth into her face. I was terrified. I couldn't move. I wanted to help. I was going to help, but it was all happening so fast. I was scared stiff. Its jaws slipped again, and I got a glimpse of her face. Before she was able to cover it with her hands again, it was lacerated and cut all over. Her cheek was hanging from her face. The bear grabbed her shoulder and pulled her out of the tent, her legs tangled in the sleeping bag. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was going to do something, but I couldn't. It all happened so fast. I managed to peer out the exit of the tent and saw the bear had turned and ran with her in its mouth, dragging her legs and the sleeping bag behind them. It stood tall on all fours, almost galloping away with her, with its head high, like it just found something amazing and wanted to get away with it. Kevin then paused and shook his head at the memory. It was crazy how strong it was. Such a powerful animal. They must be the strongest animals in the world. And I felt it right on top of me. I saw it rip Aubrey out of the tent as she struggled to hold her ground. The bear wasn't even using all its strength. It was like a curious dog that just found a dead possum or something, grabbing a toy with its tail wagging and running away excitedly with its catch. It was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. I still have nightmares of it coming after us. Nightmares of it suffocating me, where I just can't breathe and it's on top of me and won't get off. And nightmares of it taking her away from me. Aubrey's decapitated body was found 100 feet from their campsite, mutilated beyond recognition, half eaten. Her fleshy skull was found 5 feet from what was left of her body. The desperate bear ate most of her neck, along with much of her torso. Aubrey's death led to an overhaul of the park rules and increased pressure to educate the public on bear awareness. Kevin is still an avid camper, but he no longer enjoys visiting Yellowstone. He always carries bear spray, and where legal, he carries a firearm. Aubrey and I were very bear aware, and it didn't help us, he says bitterly. Jeez. What do you guys think about that story? What a crazy position it would be to be in Kevin's shoes, or sleeping bag rather. What do you think you would do if a bear was attacking the person right next to you in a tent? Especially if it was someone special to you. My first thought is that I would do anything necessary to try to stop it. But Kevin here claims that he was in utter shock. And from what I've been gathering in a lot of these bear encounters and bear incidents, it often feels a lot longer than what it actually was. This whole incident with the bear breaking into the tent and dragging Aubrey away could have happened all within a matter of 1 minute or less. So I wonder how much time Kevin even really had to react. But what do you think you would do in such a situation? Would you just lie still in hopes it takes the person next to you? Or do you think you'd be willing to risk your life for them? Let me know in the comments. And the way it was describing the bear just pulling at her head, it really made me think of this video I saw, an incident that just happened a couple months ago and it was caught on camera, where a sloth bear caught some guy in India and was just yanking and yanking on his face. Its jaws kept slipping and the guy would just lash back. He was on his back on the ground and he tried to cover his face with his arms, but the sloth bear was just so adamant at grabbing his face and pulling again, and there was just nothing the guy could do. His face was a bloody mess and it was so disgusting I really didn't even want to watch the video again. I found it on some weird news website and I don't think the video's even on YouTube, it's that bad. But if you do look for it, I warn you, it's quite disturbing. But nonetheless, it really made me think of that incident. And the bears are just so strong. Any average person just is quite helpless against them. And what's crazy is this bear was only like 290 pounds or something. And to think how small that is compared to what they can actually get to be in terms of weight and size. Some of those big bears that eat salmon all the time can get like 1,500 pounds. Those Kodiak brown bears as well. I know some of the world record ones are like over 2,000 pounds. It's just crazy. But yeah, could you imagine having a bear on top of you and just pulling at your face? What a horrific thing to go through. But yeah, I really appreciate you guys for sticking through with this video. And I'd like to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. And again, if you will, like this video and subscribe to the page. And stay tuned to this channel for more chilling tales with the Iceman.